All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. To call the regular meeting of Township Council for Monday, April 13th to order. And of course, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, our special relationships with the Katzie, Kwantlen, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. I'm going to move A1 amended to remove delegation C1, which has been withdrawn, and to add an additional delegation from Grant Roster. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion, amendments to the agenda? Actually, I think I'll make a few. I'll move that we reschedule items E7 and E8 to May 11th. Seconded by Councillor Pratt.
E7 and E8?
That's correct. Councillor Martins?
Yeah, can you advise what those items are?
Yeah, E7 and E8.
But what are they?
Go ahead and state them if you wish.
Well, I was asking you, because you said you're moving them.
Yeah, I'm
E7?
removed to E7 and E8. That's correct.
What is E7?
And you can go ahead and read it if you wish.
If that makes it easier for you, sure. So E7 is mixed-use development zoning bylaw parking changes, and E8 would be the Walnut Grove Drive traffic calming plan. Is that correct?
Yep, that's items E7 and E8. That's correct.
And moved until, sorry.
May 11th.
May 11th?
All right, any other discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, call the question on that amendment. Ms. Bauer, can we just mark Councillor Richter absent for that vote and carry on? You cannot. Okay.
I'm sorry, procedurally, we can't.
Great, that carries unanimously. Is there any other discussion on the motion, the agenda as amended? Seeing none, call the question on the motion as amended. Sorry, the agenda as amended. That carries unanimously. Get a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes of March 23rd. Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Seeing no discussion, call the question. That carries unanimously. Motion to adopt the public hearing meeting minutes of March 23rd. Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, call the question. B2. That carries unanimously. Our first delegation is from Ms. Mueller from the BC Farm Museum Association. Please come forward. Great. Thanks for coming here today, and go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Woodward and members of council. My name is Grace Muller, and I live at 23745 40th Avenue in Langley. And I'm here this evening representing the BC Farm Museum Association in Fort Langley, some of which are right behind me. First, on behalf of our board of directors and volunteers, I want to extend our sincere thanks to council and township staff for your ongoing support over the years. We are truly grateful for the township grant funding we have received in past years. This has allowed the Farm Museum to produce many special event projects for the community. Thank you. The Farm Museum Association has spent the last 60 years, 2026 is our 60th anniversary year, acquiring, restoring, repairing, and exhibiting items of agriculture and pioneer life heritage in the community of Langley and across British Columbia. These efforts benefit the community in various ways. Among them, school children learn about how agriculture has evolved and what pioneer life was really like. Seniors reconnect with their memories and artifacts from their own family history. Tourists and the general public find it fascinating to hear the stories of our community's agricultural history. Special event days at the museum allow the community to see equipment working through live demonstrations. The Farm Museum is membership-owned, 174 paid-up members, and about 1,000 people following us on Facebook. And since 1919 has been volunteer managed and operated. The collection of donated artifacts on exhibit at the Farm Museum has grown from the original 113 to over 6,500 artifacts presently. It's been our pleasure to have had members of council visit the Farm Museum on numerous occasions, and we have pictures to prove it. We have appreciated your interest and support. You all have a good knowledge of what the Farm Museum is all about, so I'll not waste your time further talking about what and how the Farm Museum contributes to the community. Having visited the Farm Museum, I'm sure you all understand what I mean when we say the museum is full. Into the rafters and up the walls, literally. We feel we're at a critical time in history for preserving and exhibiting many items of agriculture and pioneer life. Many families are cleaning out deceased grandpa's or great-grandpa's barn, sheds, or storage spaces and discovering valuable historic heritage items. They know these items have historical value, but for various reasons, they're unable to keep the items. Therefore, they look for a home that will value the artifacts as their families have. The Farm Museum has fascinating items donated every month. But this opportunity is time limited. In just a few more years, many of these items and the stories that go with them will be lost. Recognizing this, and with the current 2 buildings full of collection exhibits, the Farm Museum Association Board of Directors approved expansion of the Farm Museum with a 3rd building. In stage 1 of the process, to actually accomplish the expansion, the property to the south of the King Building was purchased. During stage 2, the Museum Development Committee started discussions with an architect to produce a schematic drawing for the design and content of an additional building. Which brings us to stage 3, raising $9 million so we can move to stage 4, construction. Now don't get excited, I'm not going to ask council for $9 million. But I am going to ask for your support in a different way. The Farm Museum Association has always followed a responsible policy of raising funds first and then actually completing the building or event or project. That policy has slowed the process sometimes, but has kept us financially stable for many decades. So the Develop Committee researched all possible sources of federal, provincial, municipal, foundations, and private donors in this very economically challenged time. Last fall, we heard Federal Minister Gregor Robertson present funding to British Columbia in the amount of $326 million towards the Canada Community Building Fund, with the commitment to grant BC another $326 million per year in each of the following years. Our research showed that this fund is administered by the Union of BC Municipalities. We would like to apply to this fund for the funds to start construction. $9 million out of $326 is not a big deal. Our research showed that this fund has 3 program streams. The Farm Museum expansion would fit under the 3rd one, Community Works Fund stream. Under the Community Works Fund stream, there are 19 project categories. The Farm Museum expansion would fit under 3 of those categories: culture, tourism, recreation. We needed to discover, how do we apply for these funds? Numerous emails and telephone conversations between myself and very helpful UBCM and Metro Vancouver staff and directors resulted in learning that we cannot directly apply for these funds. If we are understanding correctly, only a township council can apply and then pass the funds on to the museum. The support we're asking council for today is this. Would council and staff be willing to submit a grant application to the Canada Community Building Fund on behalf of the BC Farm Museum Association for the purpose of museum expansion? And for each council member, we've provided Ms. Bauer with a little information package, including a brochure of museum plans and a written copy of this presentation, because I've thrown some titles out there. Thank you for your time this evening and your continued support, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, great. Thank you for coming here again today. I'll start with Councillor Kunst. Go ahead.
Well, hello.
Good evening.
You have certainly done your homework on this. I know you've been working on this for a little while, and I guess one of my questions would be, do you know of any other organizations that have applied for this funding and in your research?
No.
So there's a good chance.
Information was I was given limited information because I'm not township staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if any other members of council have questions, but I'll have a motion after if once we're done here.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you very much for your delegation today. I was wondering if the museum has had a chance to look at the Canada Cultural Spaces Fund, which the not-for-profits are allowed to apply for directly, and has there been any feedback?
That was one of the funds high on our list to apply for. But since the financial world has changed, currently they are not accepting applications. And some of the other larger funds currently have reduced available funds. It's very challenging right now.
And I'm assuming some of the foundations or other sort of non-government entities you've talked to all say, we'll contribute, but you need a government to be the sort of lead participant. Is that the feedback?
In our research, we identified a number of organizations where there might be grant opportunities, but the amounts available are smaller. So, before I die, I would like to cut the ribbon on this new additional building. And if we have to, we'll go back to that route, but we would prefer to get enough money now to put a shovel in the ground and have that ribbon cutting. I won't finish it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ms. Muller, how you doing?
Hi, Councillor.
Knowing your son, I'm quite sure that you'll be lasting for quite a while, okay?
Oh, thank you.
This package that we're going to receive, in there, is there relevant information for us? Like how much is the ask, any deadlines for applications and all that kind of information?
Basically, it just contains a brochure on the design that we have come up with for now, which can be a bit confusing too, because if you look at page 5, and you can just write these numbers down and refer to them later, because Ms. Bauer has the information for you. But if you look at page 5, you will see that there's all cubicles with walls for the exhibit space. But if you look at page 10, it's empty room. And that's on purpose because we're going to be using walls that are movable. For example, one wall of the exhibit will be 2 glass exhibit cases, so items can be placed behind glass. On the other side, it will be shelving for larger, and then the back wall will be used for hanging things there. That makes it more practical in the long run because you can change the size of the exhibit or even turn them around. I'm not sure, I've got random ramble there, but
We'll have a look at it. And just, thank you very much. This is one of the two museums we've had that my grandkids like to grab Grandpa and go and visit, so thank you.
we have pictures of you vacuuming the floor with your grandchildren at the museum's last cleanup day, yes.
Yes, thank you very much. I actually had a question, and I'm so glad that Councillor Kunst is going to put forward a motion. I'm absolutely going to support it because I think this is a wonderful idea. So you only need 9 million, and I shouldn't say only, nine's a lot of money, but out of a big federal government pot, it should be, inclined to agree with you, better odds of getting some of anyway. Now, the package, I know that Councillor Bailey just referenced it, but is there a date that you have to make application by?
I do not know because I'm not township staff, so the amount of information we received was limited.
Okay, so it's really critical that we get township staff to help you
To
out
take
with
a look
this.
at it, yep.
Yeah.
And as
Okay.
far as the deadline, we have the policy of raise the money first and then do the work. So if it takes us 1 year or hopefully not 10 years, but for discussion purposes, if it takes 10 years, so be it.
Yeah, well, it would be nice to see it speeded up because I know that you have had that land sitting there waiting, so
Yes.
thank you for speaking with us today.
Hi, Grace. Nice to see you today.
Hello, Counselor.
I think most of my questions have been answered. I was wondering how quickly we need to respond to this, but I think it sounds like sooner than later. And
Sooner is always better. Asking doesn't hurt or cost anything. And we'll do stuff when we get the money.
yeah, and I appreciate that about your organization, and that's why you're still here to talk about it. And it's a good way to handle the finances. So well done. And I always appreciate your events and good music and good food, and love watching the dancing and appreciate what you all do.
It's always an asset to have council members show up at our events.
Yeah.
I know Councillor Richter has flown the flag on Canada Day. Councillor Pratt has vacuumed. Councillor Blair cut the ribbon for the murals. With Mayor Woodward has been to several fall dinners. Anyway, I should stop talking. Any other questions?
Yeah, you know what? I look forward to Councillor Kuntz's motion, and I fully support this, and I look forward to seeing the project getting underway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. I haven't been around all that much. We had a bit of a fire for over 3 years. So
We do
we're
have
stuck.
one picture.
But I do remember being on the committee years and years back, and I look and see Sandy Hope and the Hope family, who I've known for years and years. And you've got a lot of past people that worked with you, and I certainly remember them and all the work they've done. My question is, what is your membership? How many members have you got nowadays?
As of this week, we had 174 paid-up members, but sometimes people are on the membership list and it takes them a few months to pay their dues.
Yeah, I know it's an awful lot of work because I know you're all volunteers and things like that.
Yes.
I have a habit of getting lost in museums. And that's whether it's the Louvre or the Rijksmuseum but I was, my wife was looking for me one Canada Day, it could have been any day. And she couldn't find me in your museum because I was downstairs in the back room
Oh,
talking to some of
somebody
the
gave
older
you the
guys.
private tour.
Well, a few people know where that is. So anyway, it's a great facility, and hopefully expanding your exhibits, everything. It's exciting because you folks are able to keep an organization going where other folks have a lot more difficult making it happen. They have to unfortunately close the doors. So as long as you guys can keep those doors open, I think it's important that this council and my colleagues are able to help you out somehow.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Grace. Thanks again for coming. Really appreciate the delegation, and I think what we'll do now is we'll just deal with this right away.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Councilor Coons, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a motion here, so that council directs staff to work on or submit a grants application, that council directs staff to work with the BC Farm Museum on a grant application to the Community Works Fund on behalf of the BC Farm Museum to support the expansion.
Seconded by Councilor Richter. Yeah, you wish to speak to it? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's been a privilege to be the BC Farm Museum rep for a number of years now, and I can see the sustainability of your organization by way of all the members that you have, all the volunteers that come faithfully, and so I can't imagine a better way of supporting the BC Farm Museum than just simply working with you to, apply for some funding. So hopefully you're successful, or we are successful. Thank you.
Ms. Bauer, can you read the motion back, please?
The motion reads that council directs staff to work on or submit a grant application to the Community Works Fund on behalf of the BC Farm Museum Association.
Councilor Coons, you were looking for work on or submit? It's not quite what I remember hearing, so I want to clarify this before I potentially consider an amendment. Go ahead.
Sure. To work with the BC Farm Museum on the application, because I think they probably have some questions or information that staff might
So it's a
need.
good clarification. Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment for council's future consideration. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councilor Pratt. And the rule here is just to have it come to council like all of our grants do, because I think there'll be some fine print potentially associated with the particulars of this grant that I think could be appropriate for council to review before final authorization. So Councilor Richter, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why it has to come back to council.
Mr. Coon?
To your worship, it would require a motion, and we would need to review the specific Community Works Fund, the funding streams, and whether the qualifications are met, and whether the municipality themselves can apply on behalf of BC Farm Museum. So there's some items to review as well.
I don't believe all grant applications, maybe many, I don't want to say all, but many do require a specific resolution authorizing the application.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilor Coons?
Yeah, just, do you know if it's the time frame on that? If we could, if it's sort of something that we need to do, because usually grants have a deadline.
To your worship, to Councillor Coons, we would look at the specific grant and whether there's any deadlines associated with it. If there's any deadlines that we are not able to meet, we'll advise council, but we would report back to council.
Amazing, thank you.
All right, so call a question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call a question on the motion as amended. That carries unanimously. Next delegation is Janet Andrews, newest District Labor Council. On behalf of Janet Andrews. Yes, no, it's no problem, but go ahead.
I would have
Introduce
opened with
yourself
that.
to council as well. Go ahead.
Yes, my apologies about the adjustment to the agenda. Janet Andrews is our Secretary Treasurer. I know Mayor Woodward knows her well. I'm sorry to be filling in, but I'm happy to be here. My name is Allison. I'm a proud Move Up member and the Administrative Assistant at the New Westminster and District Labor Council. So Councillor Bailey, when you phone, it's me. Nice to meet you. Each year, the New Westminster and District Labor Council presents to City Council and school boards in our region to seek their support and recognition of April 28th as the day of mourning for workers injured and killed on the job. We believe workplace health and safety is everyone's responsibility. This year, workers across Canada are reminding our communities that psychological health and safety is occupational health and safety. In 2024, 146 people in British Columbia died as a result of their work. There were 6,593 claims recorded for serious injuries. Each of these numbers is a worker, a family impacted, and a life changed forever. Too many families lose loved ones to occupational diseases, and we know these numbers are not the whole story because they only include those fatalities accepted by the Workers' Compensation Board's systems. In cases of workplace exposure to toxic chemicals, diseases like COVID-19, or materials like asbestos, effects only become apparent months, years, or decades later. Our thoughts and sympathy go out to the families of those workers. These are people in your communities, and the impacts of a workplace injury go far beyond time away from work. We can and must do better to keep workers safe at work and support injured workers and their families. We were pleased to see advances this year in tower crane safety. Just last month, the Government of BC announced they are introducing a mandatory crane licensing and permitting program through WorkSafe BC to strengthen safety oversight. 7 fatalities involving cranes in BC in the past 5 years prompted action to improve standards and accountability. Crane operation is high-risk work with significant safety hazards, meaning failures can have catastrophic consequences. This action to improve training and accountability did not happen without the solidarity of the labour movement, and especially the efforts of the BC Building Trades and the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 115, who participated in the Ministry of Labour's Crane Safety Table, along with industry and technical experts. Unions in BC have fought hard for gains in ensuring appropriate WorkSafe BC coverage. But we know prevention is the most important action we can take, and licensing, permitting, and regulation and strong enforcement are proven tools to reduce risks. As union members, we also call on government at all levels to remove barriers to joining a union to ensure all workers have the protection and rights that come with a union card, because strong unions make safe workplaces. Accountability is critical when it comes to health and safety at work, as these new requirements demonstrate. That's why this year, we're also reminding everyone not all hazards are visible. We must ensure that psychological health and safety is included in efforts to make workplaces safer. Invisible injuries can include things like stress, anxiety, burnout, and chronic pain, and hazards can include threats to air quality and airborne chemicals. Mental disorder injuries are caused by significant work-related stressors, including bullying, harassment, or one or more work-related traumatic events. Nearly half of Canadians say their job is the most stressful part of their daily lives, and 70% of workers are concerned about the psychological health and safety of their workplaces. In 2023 alone, more than 8,500 workplace mental health injury claims were accepted by compensation boards across Canada, and we know those numbers are likely much higher. Psychological injuries are widely underreported, workers are discouraged from speaking up, and claims are denied, and too many people suffer in silence. On this day of mourning, workers across Canada are fighting for better protections against invisible hazards and hazards that cause invisible injuries. We're calling on all levels of government to treat psychological health with the same seriousness as physical health under occupational health and safety workers' compensation legislation in all jurisdictions, ensure that workers are protected across Canada no matter where they work or what sector they work in, require proactive risk assessments and prevention plans in every workplace, develop and implement a national strategy to ensure compliance with C-190, the Convention on Workplaces Free from Violence and Harassment, and ensure strong enforcement through sufficient unannounced inspections. Education is another key to prevention, especially for young workers. With 12% of workers injured in 2024 being under the age of 25, teachers and support workers in programs and schools like the BC Federation of Labour's Alive After 5 are critical to making sure young workers are not only safe at work, but will also not face lifelong impacts from workplace injuries. Since 2001, the BC Fed's Occupational Health and Safety Centre, with funding from WorkSafe BC, has been developing and delivering leading-edge occupational health and safety training for young workers and adults. This now includes mental health first aid. April 28 is a day of remembrance, but it is also a call to action. We owe it to the workers we've lost, we owe it to their families, and we owe it to every worker still on the job today. Safe work must mean safe for both body and mind. I would like to conclude by inviting you to join our Labour Council this day of mourning for workers injured and killed on the job on Tuesday, April 28th at 11 a.m. at Westminster Pier Park in New Westminster. Links to the event are on our council Facebook and website. Everyone here today can help make a difference. Be safety conscious, support accountability measures and health and safety education in your workplaces. Workplace accidents and illnesses are preventable and should never be seen as just part of doing the business. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I just want to thank you very much for coming and for your delegation today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming today. This is one of the most important days that I consider during the year after having spent an awful lot of time dealing with OH&S, especially OC disease. So thank you very much for drawing this to our attention. And I want to make sure that everyone understands here that the numbers that are put out there of dead and injured workers annually are only the numbers that are recognized by WorkSafe BC. They are not the actual numbers. And coming from the firefighters union and that, I am all too familiar with not only physical, such as cancers and heart, but also the mental, and we call it CIS, PTSD. So thank you very much. I look forward to April the 28th being recognized every year, having stood in exactly where you are a number of times. And again, thank you very much. I just want to draw attention to a bill that just passed this morning. The MLA for our area up in Walnut Grove, Misty Van Popta, was successful in putting through a private member's bill that is reducing the latency period for occupational disease cancer recognition for firefighters. So this is especially a good day for me, as I have been involved in that. So thank you again. I look forward to seeing you in Westminster.
Thank you very much. We will have the New West Honor Guard, I believe, joining us. We hope to have a speaker from the firefighters as well. And I just want to point out that I forgot to put up my poster momentarily. So I have it up there for our event, and I appreciate it if there are no more questions.
Got a piper for that day also.
We're working on it. I didn't want to promise because we're still in communication, but it is a priority. We do appreciate having a piper.
I know a few of them, so if you're stuck, give me a call, okay?
Good to know. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming today. Such an important topic. I was just wondering, over the years, maybe even after the last 5 years, what have the numbers continued to go up in terms of deaths and injured and some of the areas that we don't see as easily, like mental health? Are they going up? Are we holding kind of the same across the province? So how are the numbers going as we become more and more aware of it? Are we seeing decreased numbers or increased numbers?
Very valid question. It's information that I'm going to have to come back to the table on. Is there a way that I can deliver that to you after the meeting?
You could email mayor and council and provide that information, but I'm just
will.
interested to know how those numbers are changing as we become more aware of the situation and become more educated. Sometimes that causes a decrease in numbers, and sometimes education alone is not enough to see those numbers change. And so I'm just interested what's happening.
I'll go back and I will hopefully get some information to you soon.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi, Allison. Thank you very much for coming today, and appreciate the information and the reminder about April 28th. And I know that in the past, we've also acknowledged that locally with our QP local, so I hope that we will be doing that here as well on that day. It's a very important day. And I want to say thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to the people before you, and all, that we've come this far. The fact that we're talking about the invisible injuries, that's relatively new. And so much work to be done in that area. So I thank you for, speaking to it and continuing the work that you are in that right direction. It's interesting, I've been helping fundraise for the BC leg of an event called the Rolling Barrage. And it's a motorcycle ride across Canada, and it's for people struggling with PTSD specifically, particularly in our first responders and our military past and present. And the people participating in that ride, typically, I think the majority of them do suffer from PTSD, and it's actually a very therapeutic thing. And also just raising the awareness for it. And this year is the 10th anniversary, and they will be rolling through Langley in August. And it's just, all of the efforts that we are making, right, towards recognizing how much we hold inside, right? And the stress. And you talk about, workplace bullying and harassment and those sorts of issues. And you know, people are not okay. And we need to, I don't like to say normalize, but allow people a safe space to bring that out and seek help. And so thank you for being here. It's such an important topic. And carry on. Appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Allison, for coming today. I want to go back to your delegation, is that you talked a little bit about the cranes and looking after how that, so my question to you, how well are you progressing with the management of cranes and how your organizations are working for protection, also a policy regarding that? And there's a reason why I have that, if I may, through the chair.
The BC Building Trades is a council of a unified number of affiliates, and they work with those affiliates to bring forward legislation. So their progress is something that I would have to come back to you with. I can check in with Janet and see. There is a pretty big push right now to improve the safety with the BC Building Trades. So I can check in on how they're doing and get back to you. I appreciate it.
Okay, because the reason why I'm saying is that my son, he's a 10-year member of the 170, the plumbers and pipe fitters, and on a site in Oak Ridge, the phone rang when we were at home, and they were looking for my son. And
I'm so
apparently
sorry.
he was in minutes of the person that actually got hit and killed by one of the cranes. It's called a table that drops from the crane. And I know that union and other unions are very involved in trying to get a better hold on how they do that. And also, my son, he never went back to that site. He went to another location to work, but it was just too much for him and too much for the family. But you never know when that phone's going to ring, and something could happen of an emergency like that. So thank you for your time, and keep pushing those important issues.
I was also personally impacted through a person that I knew who had been working on that site, who had finished working on that site weeks prior to that person's unfortunate death. So it was a very impactful, and I appreciate you mentioning that and your son's contributions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so yeah, thank you again for coming today, and we'll observe a moment of silence at the next council meeting on the 23rd.
Thank you very much.
It's a standard thing we do, and very much appreciate the message regarding the unseen injury and the mental injury, but we also had a reminder here in Langley just about a month ago in regards to the importance of continuing the efforts on workplace safety. So really much appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much.
And given that Jan is not here, do you still wish to have a photo with council?
Yes,
Yes?
I
We will
would.
do that.
Thank you so much.
All right, next delegation is from Patricia Wilson. Please come forward. So Pat, you got 5 minutes. Go ahead. Great, thanks again.
That's a tough act to follow. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mayor Woodward and council members. Thank you very much for giving me time to share my message with you today. I'm Patricia Wilson. I'm a volunteer ambassador with MS Canada. And as in years past, I'm here to ask for your support for our annual MS awareness campaign. I'm here for my family, but I'm here for the 90,000 people in Canada who are dealing with the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is neurological episodic disease that affects the central nervous system with varying symptoms, and affects everyone a little differently. Research is ongoing as to the cause, but it is believed to be a combination of environmental and hereditary. It's considered a young person's disease because the average age for diagnosis is between the age of 20 and 49. And about 12 people a day get this diagnosis. Here in Canada, we have one of the highest rates of MS in the world, sadly. And I believe that nobody should face MS alone. Each year, May is MS Awareness Month in Canada. And this year, the theme for 2026 is early diagnosis. Raising awareness about the need for early and accurate diagnosis for this disease. As many people with MS will tell you, they went through several years before the disease was actually detected. A fellow ambassador, a friend of mine from Winnipeg, shared her impact speech that she's about to give in Parliament in Ottawa next month for the Day on the Hill, and she tells how it took 20 years for her diagnosis. The doctors told her her symptoms were that of stress or a busy mum, everything else but the true diagnosis. Early diagnosis means early treatment. Early diagnosis changes the trajectory of the disease, and early diagnosis and investment in research should not be a dream by those affected by MS. MS impacts all Canadians, not just the people who live with it, but their families, their friends, and the entire community. Ambassadors like me from all across the country are working to educate, to advocate, and to tell their story about multiple sclerosis. About $224 million is raised annually from various events. MS Bike, MS Walk, A&W's Burgers to Beat MS, as well as various other programs across Canada. These funds support research on disease-modifying therapies, which DMTs. This research happens hugely in Canada, and it's critical to improve the quality of life by those affected by this disease. So in May, the call goes out. We ask for, first off, proclamation requests. We reach out to cities, to towns, to villages, asking them to proclaim May as MS Awareness Month. It's a public record that gets signed by the mayor. The next one is flag raising requests, which I happen to have brought a flag today. We ask that MS Canada flags be flown at local facilities such as city halls, legislative buildings, or landmarks. They involve local, political, and federal politicians, and we invite local media as well. And lastly, we ask for illumination requests. May the 30th is World MS Day, where landmarks, bridges, buildings, monuments will be lit up in red to show global support and hope for the future. Last year on May the 30th, we were in St. John's, Newfoundland, and we got to see the Signal Hill, which overlooks the harbor, as well as the Lieutenant Governor's residence lit up in red, and it was amazing, very amazing. And I will add a big thank you to Mayor and Council for both the signed declaration and the red illumination on the pedestrian walkway the last few years. It's very much appreciated by all of us. So my ask is, will the Township of Langley fly an MS flag? Will the Township again sign a declaration showing support for MS awareness for May? And once again, on World MS Day on May the 30th, that the Township will illuminate a landmark in red. Because everybody knows somebody with MS. Thank you.
Yeah, when this is complete, I'd like to make a motion in that regard. Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. I know of your many years of work towards this, and how much money have you personally raised over the last 23 years?
Well, our bike team that we've been involved in for 23 years, which I can happily say Councillor Bailey is part of and has been for 23 years, we've raised over $300,000 towards research for MS Canada.
So having a family member who used to have MS for over 40 years and is no longer with us, thank you for this, and hopefully the weather's a little better this year. Riding in the rain is not that much fun, and good luck on this year and many years. She has traveled all over Canada. I know this personally, and has even ridden in Alberta. It's still a province, isn't it? Yeah. And I'd just like to thank you, Pat, for all the work you've done over the years for everyone with MS, especially also knowing your two children. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I will add also that the MS Walk is happening at Douglas Park on May the 31st, Sunday, May the 31st, and everybody in Langley and all of the Fraser Valley are welcome to come out to donate, to walk, to support, to volunteer. Anything you can do for that day would be great. We'd all appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you coming here today, and I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Bailey now to
Okay, thank
follow
you.
up on your item. All right? Nope, no, thank you. You can.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to move that we light up the bridge like we have done for the last couple of years, and that we raise the flag that for MS on the 30th.
All right, is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Councillor Ferguson.
Is that, if I may, through the chair to Councillor Bailey, is that the Cole Harmony Bridge you're speaking of?
Yes, it is.
That's what it's called, if I may.
Yes, that's the one.
That's not a friendly amendment, that's just
All
a
right.
suggestion, thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question. That carries unanimously. All right, our next delegation is Bob Langston. Please come forward. All right, thanks for coming here today, and you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilors. My name's Bob Langston. I live at 20365 36B Avenue. I think you all should have received an email from myself on April the 3rd. Some responded, some didn't. So I think where I'd like to start is, it's about a tree on my property that is in conflict with a water pipe. You may have received some pictures, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to read the email and start with that. I have an oak tree in my front yard with the incoming municipal water line situated approximately 18 inches to the west of the tree. This proximity creates a foreseeable risk that the tree roots could interfere with the pipe, potentially resulting in damage or rupture. My intention is to address this risk proactively by removing the tree and replacing a new one in a more appropriate location, thereby avoiding disruption and costs associated with a possible future water failure. I understand a permit is required. Upon applying, a visit was conducted by the Township Arborist Samuel Zhang, who indicated he would follow up. After approximately 3 weeks, my application was denied. I was advised that the tree is healthy and the further input from any additional arborists would be required. I subsequently contacted 3 approved arborists. Each declined involvement, noting without visible confirmed damage to the pipe, any assessment would be speculative. One arborist stated plainly that without direct inspection of the pipe, determining risk is largely guesswork. Further communication with township staff clarified that even if we were to hand dig and inspect the pipes, this would contravene bylaw 5.3, item A, due to the risk of damaging tree roots. More concerning, I was informed that even if damage to the pipe was identified, a permit would not be approved unless the pipe was actively leaking. Staff also indicated that photographic evidence of damage would not be sufficient. It had to be followed up by an arborist, approved arborist, or more than one. I have now been advised to obtain a report from plumbing engineer confirming that the tree roots present a significant risk. However, such an inspection requires exposing the pipe. This raises a further question of liability should the tree be damaged in the process. I would also like to draw your attention to Bylaw 5.4 item G, which allows for removal when a tree by its size and species is inappropriate for location and is supported by an arborist report. In this case, the issue is not the species itself, but clearly unsuitable proximity to critical infrastructure. This tree sits right about that far off the structure, the tree itself. Over the time that I've lived there, I used to be able to cut around the tree with my lawnmower. I can't do that anymore. I have to use a weeder because the tree has grown. Of course, the roots that support it grow up around, and that's where we're at. So I think the whole issue here is the fact that this tree was not planted in a location that it should have never been planted in that location. And so there is some leeway here by the bylaw to look at that situation. An arborist report, from what I'm seeing here, or I get an engineer, a plumbing engineer looking at it, is no more going to tell us about what's below ground, okay, on that pipe. What I'm saying here is that, you know, I've got a pipe, the pipe belongs to me, it doesn't belong to the township. The tree belongs to the township, but a pipe is my responsibility. So being in the contracting business for a number of years, I've had to deal with a lot of different situations, not something quite like this, but I like to be proactive on stuff, not reactive. And that's where the township bylaw is really laxing. You can't be proactive. They're really, really clear on that point. So it's telling me that even if we could dig it up and look at it, and it was, you know, being infringed upon, it's a copper pipe, okay, about 3/4 of an inch. So even if it's being infringed on, they still won't give me a permit until it actually leaks. So that's my story, and I've come to this point and come talk to you, and that's where I'm at. If you've got questions.
I just want to try to assist a little bit. So you just want to make it very clear, your ask is for council to approve the removal of the tree.
Removal of the tree, and I've also put in I didn't finish it because I think I've kind of run out of time here. I would be happy to put another tree in a suitable location, okay? That tree was inadvertently put there. Probably 20 years ago, I'm the 5th owner of the house, okay? The lady across the street has lived there since 1973. She says it was put in the 3rd or 4th, she couldn't remember. Somebody planted it. I only know the water line is there because when I moved in, they had done some renovations on the house, and they had to turn the water off, and they had replaced the standpipe, and it was exposed, so I could see exactly what was going on. So I ran a line, so from the shut-off, the stand-off of the street, right straight through over to my basement where it goes in, and I'm exactly 15 inches off that tree. I said 18 here, but I actually measured it's 15 inches. So to me, that tree is sitting right over the pipe. I just want to do something about it.
All right. Questions from council? Councilor Richter, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for coming and talking to us about this. I guess I have two questions, and I'm not opposed to referring this matter to staff to work with you on trying to come up with a resolution. But a couple of questions that I did have. So how old is the tree? Would you say it's 20 years or younger than 20 years?
You know, if it was a fir tree or something like that, I could tell you, but it's an oak tree, and I don't deal with oak trees very often. I'd guess at about 20 years.
About 20 years old?
Yeah, I would guess
Okay.
about 20 years, yeah.
Now, is it possible to move a 20-year-old oak tree? And if it is there another spot on your property it could be moved to?
Usually if you have to remove a tree or move a tree, they come in with a machine and it's got clamshell, goes
Yeah.
right underneath it. Not possible here. Okay, that's the only reason, that's the only way I know of how to move a tree. You gotta take the roots or a number.
Like a root ball,
good
you gotta
chunk
get
of
a
the
root ball, yeah.
Yeah, so on a tree that size, they would say, no.
Was that a question you asked the arborist?
Well, tree roots extend a long ways out. My driveway is gravel, okay?
Yeah.
So, and it's fairly close to the tree, probably about 8 feet. So you've got a tree root canopy that goes out quite a ways, all right? So this tree has also grown quite a bit. And actually, I work for the telephone company as an installer. So you're dealing with trees that are, infringing on hydro lines, the hydro secondary line. This was approaching that. I trimmed the tree, okay, to pull it back. The arborist that came out wasn't too happy with what I did, but the fact was it was quite close to it's something I'm familiar with. On those BC TELUS trucks, we carried pruners. So I'm familiar with having to do stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah,
okay?
okay.
So that's,
Yeah, no, I just had I was just curious, but is there another spot? Because you did say you could plant a replacement tree on your.
absolutely.
Is there another spot on your property? You
oh
could-
yeah, there's lots of room
Yeah.
on the property, okay?
Okay.
It's just that this one's in the wrong spot. There's only 2 trees on the property, okay? This one just happens to be in the wrong location.
Yeah,
So I'm very happy to move it, put another tree in, or remove that one and put another tree in. That's not a problem.
well, I commend you on being proactive as opposed to reactive. As somebody who lives in a house with copper pipes,
Yeah.
worst purchase decision I ever made years
Yeah.
ago, because I think I've had to replace every pipe in my house. But it's just a question of time. That pipe will spring a leak, no question.
Most likely,
Yeah.
okay? Township staff was up over a year ago and we looked at it. This fellow had 30 years in with the township, was from the plumbing water department, looked at it and said, yeah, I've had trees that have taken, the water line out, and I've had trees that don't take it out. So yes, you can go either way. But why take the risk?
Yeah, and
Okay?
I suppose
Something
moving,
happens in the middle of the winter, okay?
yeah,
You pop a leak. Now you've got to take and dig it out. You make a big mess of your property. And the expense is on mine. It's my expense, not the township's expense. The tree is owned by the township. The pipe's mine.
oh, the tree is owned by the
Well,
township.
that's the way I see it, as a bylaw.
Okay, I didn't
There's
know
very
that.
little thing in that bylaw that allows me to do just about anything with that tree, except water it.
Now, what about the feasibility of moving the pipe, or is that like,
Talked about that,
Yeah.
okay? Because of the canopy, the 20-year-old tree, you'd have to go a long ways out, okay? Either out into my lawn by about 20 or 30 feet, or out into the driveway and all the way around. The cost of that, I don't know.
okay. Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a referral motion when everybody's had a chance to ask their questions, that we ask staff to go back and take another look at this, maybe with the lens of finding a solution here, because it is going to be a problem. I agree with you.
Well, I think so.
Thank you for coming to us today.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Got one more.
Oh, please.
So, yeah, living in Brookswood, I know this is an issue that we do see from time to time. And we love the big, beautiful trees, but unfortunately, they can cause some problems. So, this was one of the things that I think one of my first notice of motions was actually to deal with the tree bylaw, because it was very restrictive. So, and these were the issues. It was, a tree too close to the house, problems with a pipe. And I think Brookswood is sort of notorious for, some of these older trees that are, kind of doing that. So, unfortunately, our staff have to work within the bylaws and the policies that we have. But I think our job as, council is to actually amend some of those policies, or at least recognize the gaps. So I'm grateful that Councillor Richter has a motion, because if she didn't, I was going to make a motion as well, just to go back to staff and see if there's a reasonable way that we can, look at this to help you out.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for coming forward with this. Once upon a time, I was a landscaper, so I know that
Okay.
your drip line on your deciduous tree is usually where your roots extend to. So it would be impossible to clamshell that thing out of there with the pipe so close to the root ball. And you do have to deal with this because sooner or later that root ball is going to ruin that pipe. So even if you cut it down, trying to remove the stump on that one's going to be a challenge.
If you cut it down, then you are going to most likely have stump grinding come in, okay? And that's where you could have a problem.
Yeah.
Because he could disrupt that. If I was going to do that, or I'm allowed to do that, then I would dig down and see exactly where we're at. And then when you're actually grinding, you know where you're grinding to and what you can do. If you grind it below grade, it's not going to grow again.
Yeah, so thanks for doing this. I understand your problem and fully supportive of having to look at this and finding a solution because that tree should not be in the proximity of that water line. Thanks.
All right, thanks again for coming here today. I'm going to follow up right now for you.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. You can sit down. Okay, that's great. Thanks. Yeah. So I'm going to move referral of Act Delegation C5 to staff for an item for information, seconded by Councillor Wren. Is there any discussion on that referral? Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I'd like to know why it's going as an item for information.
Mr. Cooner, you clarify. It's a good option for us sometimes.
Yes, Your Worship, we could provide the tree bylaw, any specific issues with respect to the location of the tree for council and the information prior to council providing any direction or amending any bylaws.
Okay, but I'm thinking that there is a problem with this one particular tree in its current particular location. How do we help the homeowner deal with that problem? Or will it be dealt with as part of this referral?
To Your Worship, to Council Director, we can review the item. The intent is to provide the information to council, so council has the information prior to giving any direction.
Okay, so will the report that comes back to council include a recommendation about issuing a permit to remove the tree?
To Your Worship, to Councillor Richter, it would be an item for information, so it would provide the history on the file, any solutions if there is any, and then provide any other information that's privy for council to consider prior to providing direction.
I guess what I'm looking for here is a solution that perhaps staff could recommend that would be a win-win, a win for the homeowner and a win for I mean, I like the idea of planting a replacement tree. I'm just letting him take this one down and he's willing to plant a replacement tree. Would something like that be in the report that comes back to council for information?
To Your Worship, to Councillor Richter, so we would review the item and provide the information to council along with whether it's compliant with the tree bylaw or not. So there potentially could be some restrictions or that are not compliant with the tree bylaw. Once we provide council with that information, then council can be in a better position to direct staff or provide direction to update the tree bylaw, et cetera, et cetera. Those options would be available to council. I think the intent of this referral to staff is to ensure that council has all the information before them, a specific location of the tree, what the tree bylaw states, and what the issue is prior to actually providing direction.
Okay, so once this item for information comes back to council, council can take action on it then?
To Your Worship, to Councillor Richter, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Call the question on that referral. That carries unanimously. And our last delegation today is Grant Rostron. Please come forward.
Good afternoon,
Yeah, good afternoon. Go ahead. Good to see
Mayor
you.
and Council. It's a privilege, and I really appreciate being able to have this opportunity to talk with you. I've got some support here today from a number of people that are involved with our committee. I'm here because I see what's happening with, it's a big thing that we're looking at doing here in terms of looking at the history and the relationship of how the fort came into being and where it's located and what this has done for our community. So we recognize that this fort was the first, basically the first non-indigenous settlement in the Solo territory, and that this, which is now known basically as the Fraser Valley, and that this was an important stage in the lives of our First Nations, as well as the other people that were involved in a very cooperative time back in the 1820s when the fort was actually being built. So what we're trying to do with this, and you do have some background on this, is that we have an opportunity to recognize those people, those groups that were involved in building the fort, that are still represented in our community and still really, in many ways, don't feel as connected to this community as we would like to see. So we see this as an opportunity to bring together the Kwantlen, and the other First Nations on the river here, along with the Métis and the Kanaka Māori, the people, the Hawaiians that are trying to tell their story as well, and to try to bring this forward and to be able to have an opportunity through, both the township's commitment to the truth and reconciliation that is needed. We recognize that this is a time when we're getting more and more pulled apart and more separated as community. We're not connected to our neighbors like we used to. There's not the teamwork. I see this opportunity to be celebrating the occasion by bringing these people together again and trying to make a special year of it by using the special events that we have throughout the year, and also then having a special conference and a number of things in the November weekend that will highlight our willingness and desire to work together. My interest, of course, being in the Canoe Club, sort of ties in with our Canadian history in terms of how this country has come about, and how this has and I was able to go to and be part of a reenactment for a 200th anniversary at Fort Assiniboine on the Athabasca River, where we had a very small community do an incredible show of their special celebration. I'm not looking for that as much as being able to use this as an opportunity to bring the various people together, and to be able to utilize, the coming of the Salish in place by the river, to be able to use that also to highlight what this special occasion is, to tie it in with our First Nations and the other racial groups that are part of our community. at this stage, we're looking for grants, obviously, and the Heritage Canada grants are due to come up so we've got a deadline on getting a letter of support from our municipal people, and so this really is what I'm looking for at this stage. Obviously, down the road, we're looking at 18 months away before we're doing our big event. So we have some time to work, hopefully with your staff, to be able to work out some ways of being able to facilitate some facilities and that sort of thing for this event. So I thank you for this opportunity, and hopefully I can answer some questions that you might have.
Yeah, thanks, Grant, for coming up. Just want to clarify, though, the ask for today, maybe as the event grows, the asks might grow, but for today, you're looking for a letter of support for those grant applications.
Sorry?
You're looking for a letter of support for those grant applications.
That's right.
Right, so we'll
Yes.
get council to hopefully
Yes,
endorse that here. Just want
specifically.
to clarify for today, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And we'll keep you.
Councilor Pratt, go ahead.
We'll keep you in knowledge of as our plans go further forward and how we can make sure that this is a community event.
That's great. Okay, Councilor Pratt.
Yeah, great, and thank you very much for the delegation. My question would be, before offering to move any motions, at what stage, or have you already started the conversation with the Kwantlen, with the Catesy around the celebration, or is that something that's upcoming?
We've already started. I've already had contact with with the Kwantlen Council. I think my dealings so far with the Catesy have been very favourable. Kwantlen recognises and acknowledged to me that they have some separation, some division in their thinking towards supporting us. There are a group within the membership that are very supportive of what we're trying to do, and there's others obviously that really are reluctant to, and we are sensitive to that, and we recognise that we have to tailor our plans to work with them and meet their needs and be sensitive to their position on the whole colonial thing, for sure.
Of course, yeah, and I appreciate hearing that, and I'm sure that the grant, if it was to be granted by the federal government, would be contingent on serious involvement with the First Nations. So under that assumption, I'd be happy to move when the time comes, supporting the request for a letter of support from the municipality.
Councilor Ferguson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Russman, for coming. I see a lot of familiar faces here working with your committee, and yeah, you're right. And it's been a long time since I've seen you. I used to work with you many, many years ago with the Fort Langley Chamber of Commerce. But I think it's great you're putting together this this application and this. I'm reading through your documents, all the history, vision, and goals, and the background of what you've done with both yourself and the committee. I did want to ask you, rolling forward, you've got another kind of subsequent something you want to maybe do with us or Salisbury Place in the future. This is above and beyond your ask today, and that's working with our staff, Salisbury Place, having some kind of an event, and also working with the nations as well. How far along are you with that planning, or I imagine you still got a number of things you got to do?
Well, we've been meeting for about 6 months. We have a number of people. These things gather steam as you get into it, and the initial just getting some people together, and we looked at our community organisations within the fort that have very much are very much on side and have attended a number of meetings. We've got another meeting coming up this week, actually, that will involve quite a number of people. And each time we're getting more contact, more support, like support from even Fraser Valley University prof to support the whole concept of the truth and reconciliation sort of idea that we're pursuing for this experience.
Yeah, certainly I support whatever motion's going to be coming forward and hope that you'll keep in contact with the staff and looking forward to a big event in the future, if I may. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you very much for coming today and delegating. Just a quick question. Is there a deadline to be getting these requests in for grants? Do you know?
For the grant that we're looking at this stage, the Heritage Canada grant, it has to be in before the end of May.
Before the end of May?
Yeah.
All right, so that letter of support you would need before the end of May?
Very good.
Yeah, okay, thank you for clarifying.
Sure. All right. Yeah, thanks for bringing it to us, and look forward to learning more as the process moves forward, and we're here to help in any way we can, and we'll address the authorization from council to provide you with that here right now. Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you
Grant.
so much.
Okay. Councilor Pratt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I would move that council direct staff to issue a letter of support for the 200th anniversary celebration in Fort Langley, inclusive of truth and reconciliation efforts and engagement with the First Nations community.
Yeah, I'll second that. Is there any other discussion? Councilor Martins.
Yeah, can we just perhaps attach a date to have that done by so they can apply in time? I think you
We
said
don't need
before
that
the
in
end of
the
May.
motion. We'll take care of that this week.
Okay, thank you.
Right, gonna call a question. That carries unanimously. I'm gonna move on to reports to council, the interim housing target report. I'll move it. Is there a second or seconded by Councilor Pratt? Is there any discussion on E1? Councilor Whitmarsh.
Yes, thank you. Had a question, Your Worship, through to staff on this, and certainly very pleased that we met or exceeded our year one target in this. I did note that in the report, it highlights in section 2 and 3, or sorry, section 3 of the report, section 4, it talks about completions and demolitions and this sort of thing. And in it, it has a lot of C note 1, C note 2, C note 3, and these notes basically indicate that the Township of Langley has not historically collected this information, and so wouldn't have it at this time. I guess I'm wondering if some of this information we expect would be available for the October 15th annual report, because this is an interim and we do have an annual report that's due October 15th. Do you think that this, or do we expect that we'll have more clear data, at least over the next 6 months or so, that we can be more complete in our reporting?
Yes, to your worship, to Council Whitmarsh. So the item being referred to or being alluded to essentially is that historically the Township of Langley has not collected building permit data on unit side tenure or rental affordability. So we have the unit count, we just don't have the typology of the unit sizes, whether they're 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 1-bedroom. So moving forward, we will be collecting this data and upgrading our software and systems to ensure we have the information that is required on the unit size, tenure, or rental affordability to provide that information to the province during our interim housing target report updates.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I noticed in this document as well that it does indicate that we would have a meeting set out in prior to, that there need to be a special meeting convened prior to the October 15th deadline. Is that an expectation that we would have a special meeting brought forward for council to go through the annual report prior to October 15th?
Yeah, I'll answer that one. Myself and other mayors have recently asked the minister to reconsider that deadline in the light of this year's election, and she's going to take it under advisement. And so hopefully by the time the official council calendar in July is upon us, we would have an answer whether or not that'll be extended. We've requested the end of November, given this year's election timeline.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful information. I had a couple other questions. In the document, it talks about, in our report, talks about the targets that we're trying to reach year 1, year 2, and so on by the end of year 5, 6,500, 6,600 units. Do we have any sense here, and maybe we don't have to report it, but on which communities in the township that these various units will be placed? The 6,600 units by the end of year 5?
Mr. Cooner, we can certainly get that. I think it's almost entirely Willoughby.
That's almost entirely
Almost
Willoughby?
entirely Willoughby, yeah.
Okay.
Potentially some in Aldergrove Town Center, but if we should get that information, that breakdown.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful, because I mean, we are doing some, there is some development happening in Brookswood and
Yeah.
Aldergrove and other places. It'd be
I
nice
agree.
to have.
So, Mr. Cooner, I think we can take that under advisement. I don't know if it's possible, if you want a motion to provide that, or you can put that on an item for information to get that additional breakdown.
Yes, staff can just take that away and consider that and update council.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
Okay, thank you. And my last question was that, again, this expectation of delivering roughly 6,600 units by the end of year 5. And I noticed, we certainly have had some delay in some things. Some of our applications have received third reading, but not moving along due to economic conditions. And I'm just wondering what sort of contingencies we have in place, or what happens if the economic conditions are such that we are not able to move forward with and accomplish the 6,600 units by 2030. Is there contingencies we have, or is there the standards the expectations from the provincial government get lowered, or how do we deal with the economic situation and not being able to move forward in a lot of these housing units?
Yeah, I think that's an open question and more of a political one. Those conversations with the minister are occurring with Metro Vancouver and the mayor's committee. And that very question has been raised in regards to that there's our targets, and that how does local government mandate construction? And so all we can do is approve housing. We can't necessarily deliver housing. So it's an ongoing, open conversation of what will happen if municipalities that are growing at the rate that we are missing an artificial target created by a new formula that the province brought in a few years ago. Does it reflect reality, or is it just a number on a page? I think that's a conversation that's continuing. Other municipalities, I think, are going to face that issue long before we do, and we'll learn how the province is going to handle it.
Okay, so we will get more information, or it'll be fine-tuned, you expect, by the province as we
The
move forward.
conversation's continuing on the difference between targets and the local government's ability to be measured for delivering targets when all we do is approve housing. We can't mandate its construction. So if we have thousands of units that are approved, some of us would consider that to be our job done.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Councilor Ferguson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly, in response to Councilor Whitmer, I had a meeting with Minister Boyle at UBCM last year, and things were a little bit different then than indeed are now. And the question was put to her by myself and other members of the regional district as to how are you going to proceed with this particular format and formula from the province, given some of the challenges, anywhere from at the time interest rates to the time of building, and now the tariffs coming in and other things, and of course a war going on. And she has not changed her position since, even though that we had put it together to her, the challenges coming in the future. So we're still in limbo as to where we're at. Obviously, Langley Township is in a much better position than, say, West Vancouver or something, but that was put to her last year at the UBCM. Thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, call the question on E1. That carries unanimously. Item E2, Langley Meadows Park improvements. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on E2? Councillor Martins?
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank staff for this report and the diagram, and I just have a question, if I can, through the chair to staff about one of the elements of it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. The pathway, the pedestrian trail on the right-of-way between 200th Street and the park, and appreciate that we're looking at lighting on the pathways. I'm wondering, how do we avoid the light that would be cast into the adjacent residences? how does staff get around that, just because it's going between those two complexes there?
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, so the lighting for the key pedestrian route from the park connecting to 200th Street. So we are currently, that does utilize a public right-of-way over the private strata property. So we are working with the strata there with respect to the installation of the lights, as it would require coordination and I believe approval from them as well. So we're working with them to ensure that the impact, if there is any, is limited, and to ensure that there is no issues.
Great, that's good to hear, because I know that is often a challenge, and I see sometimes there's motion sensor lights that you're walking in this dark path and all of a sudden they light up everything. And so hopefully we can come up with something in between that works to keep people safe and not disrupt people's sleep. Thank you.
Seeing no discussion, I'll call the question. Me too. That carries unanimously. We're at almost 3 o'clock. Take a 5-minute recess, return here at 3:05. Maybe 10-minute recess, 3:05. Thanks.
but and council provides direction to relocate the pump house, we would look at options with respect to the hydro pole as well, whether there's an ability to underground those the hydro lines there, or whether it's feasible.
Okay, that would be great. And then the only other question I have, if I can, through the chair, to staff, is with regards to the speed, the posted speed for the roundabout. I know we're going to look at making the signs more visible, so people are aware of the roundabout. What is the posted speed?
One of the improvements there we're looking at is posting the speed of 30 kilometers as a speed advisory tabs on the roundabout warning signs.
Is it possible to reduce that to 15? It's a pretty tight roundabout, and there's I guess, examples of people approaching it too quickly. Or is that a standardized thing?
To your worship, Councillor Martins, that's a standardized speed we're looking at. However, if council provides you direction, staff can look at alternatives.
Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, I would love those two to be considered anyways in any sort of staff report, the pole and the posted speed in the roundabout.
So the process I would suggest is that we dispose of these motions, and if you wish to make another one that's in addition, that'd be fine. So that way this item can proceed, and then your additional request for information can also proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll come back to you, take a note of
Yeah.
that, and I'll come back to you. Councillor Kunst?
So I've got a few, but you're gonna move number 4 separately, you said?
Yes, I have a referral motion for number 4.
Okay, so I'll talk about that one when you make your referral motion. I actually want to talk about Murrayville Five Corners as well, because from what I read in the report, it was the sight line was the pump house. And what I'm asking staff if they've considered actually moving the crosswalk instead of moving the pump house, just maybe a couple meters down, right at the end of the sidewalk, there's another one that adjoins on the other side of the street. Just because the pump house is an issue, but it's also an iconic heritage building that I think we're going to hear a lot about if we move it. So I'm just wondering if staff could consider that before we go forward with putting beacons and all that kind of stuff, which I think will really help. But would they consider doing that? Because it seems like a pretty simple solution, but maybe it's too simple.
Your worship, to Councillor Kunst. So when staff did their technical review and assessment of the roundabout, the short-term improvements that we're asking council for direction on is the installation of that 30-kilometer speed advisory tabs and installation of the pedestrian crossing and the beacons. The long-term improvement option was essentially looking at relocating the pump house. And if council provides us direction, then council staff can look at relocating the pump house in more of a holistic manner, where we look at the hydro poles, potentially the crosswalk being moved as well. So that can potentially be done as a part of the long-term improvement options related to the roundabout.
Okay, because the crosswalk is very close to the exit of the roundabout. So that was just one of the things I wanted to raise. Also, I think staff indicated that would possibly come to the Heritage Advisory, so I appreciate that, and just wanted to mention that. And then I'll wait for your motion as far as the 224th. Actually, did have one more. I had a follow-up. One of these came from my motion in October, and I had a follow-up motion that was more about the Murrayville corridor to 23rd and 50th Avenue. So I'm wondering if that was also addressed in this, if staff also did a study on the 223rd, 50th, and 52nd Avenue. Because that was the one where the over 200 people petitioned, mainly a lot of seniors and families that live in the area. October 20 motion.
Your worship to Councillor Kunst, the reference we have in the report is the motion from October 6th, and I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, the 50th Avenue and 224 Street crosswalk review and 56th Avenue and 224 intersection review. Was that?
Yeah, so if you recall, you and I met,
Yeah.
and I said that that particular intersection was right along the ALR. So you suggested a follow-up motion, which I did on the October 20, and it just may have gotten missed. So I just wanted to highlight that it was actually the 223rd and 52nd, it's right by the Shoppers Drug Mart. And there's like a seniors, I think it's Chelsea Gardens that lives right across the street, and a lot of residential on 223rd going up to 53rd.
To your worship to Councillor Kunst, my understanding and recollection now is that I believe that motion was a separate motion. It was referred to the budget process.
Yeah.
And during the budget process, the capital item was not funded, so that's the status update of that specific item.
All right, so if staff consider that resolved, then why don't you and I follow up on it and
Okay.
get it back on track? And if it's a fundable project, we'll do it, because I think residents were asking for some things, but also just painted lines.
Yeah,
At that
exactly.
intersection, so I'll follow up on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And Mr. Cooner, I believe we're also waiting on a report to council for 224th, fronting the new middle school that's being constructed there, so just as a follow-up as well. Great, so seeing no other discussion on those first resolutions, those first four, I'll call the question on those four. That carries unanimously, so I'll move number 4. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Pratt. So just want to highlight, Mr. Cooner, there may be a mistake here, just an addition error. So the total project is 250,000 funded by 247,500 plus the 1% assist factor. It's not a $500,000 project. Just want to confirm that.
That is correct. That was a typo.
Yeah, so we'll get that addressed as well. I'm going to move a referral back to staff. I'm going to move that this item be referred back to staff for an updated report to council with consideration of a roundabout at this intersection. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Rint. So the intent here, I think, is I'd like to see both options and what those both look like. I think that we did have some discussion around a roundabout there. And I'd like to see the presentation of the pros and cons and costs of both options before we advance money on design. That's the intent. Is there any other discussion on that referral? Great, seeing none, call the question on that referral. That carries unanimously. Item E6, 2026 Province of BC Disaster Resilience and Innovation Funding Program. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on those applications? Seeing none, call the question on E6. It carries unanimously. Item E9, Agricultural Land Commission application number 100473. Does anybody wish to move that? Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion on E9? Okay. Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I'm just curious why TOL is on this as an applicant on page 2 in the report.
Mr. Cooner.
Through your worship, Councillor Richter, back in 1962, legislation provided for townships to acquire roads by bylaw. So technically, the road fronting the site here is provided by bylaw. That bylaw then provided a portion of dedicated land on behalf of the township. Therefore, the township needs to be an applicant to the ALC to get that dedicated out, your worship.
I see, okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question.
Oops.
That carries unanimously. Bylaws for first, second, and third reading, rezoning application number 100637, bylaw numbers 5782. This was deferred, so it's back on the floor. Is there any questions or discussion on G1? Councillor Richter.
Yes, I'm going to make an observation, and I'm going to ask for a public hearing So what I'd like to see it given is first and second, and then referred for a public hearing.
Mr. Cooner, maybe you give some background before that's moved. Maybe you could give some background on how that would contradict provincial legislation.
Yes, Your Worship. The Local Government Act has been amended to essentially limit council's ability for public hearings on items that are plan compliant or seeking residential development. And specifically with respect to this rezoning application, first and second reading have already been granted. It's before council for third reading.
Okay, but
My apologies, it's actually all three readings before council.
yeah, it is all three, and it was all three the first time. So this application, which is essentially a single-family home application in the middle of a rural area, has never had any public input.
There've
To
been
council.
there've been multiple public open houses. I don't know if it's accurate to say there's been no public input, but there has been no public hearing.
Okay, but is there any reason, I mean, this is not a schmew, is there any reason why we can't request a public hearing on this?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry, I missed that. You mentioned SMUs.
Yeah, it's not a SMU, so is there any reason why we couldn't request a public hearing on this as a single-family application, home
Who would we
application?
request a public hearing from?
The people who live in the area.
Well,
I mean, to me, there's clearly a traffic impact as a result of this particular development. Either they're going to route the traffic, and if you've got 58 single-family homes, you're probably looking at least 120 cars, if not more. It's either going to go straight out onto 56th Avenue at the bottom of pretty much a blind curve and a hill, or it's going to funnel up through the Tall Timbers development, which is a residential development.
Mr. Cooner, perhaps you could address the question again about the public hearing.
To Your Worship, the legislation currently does not allow public hearings for plan compliant residential development rezoning applications.
And that includes on SR land?
The proposed rezoning application is plan compliant and it's for residential development.
Okay, well, we just got a petition today from someone in the community. They've already got 42 names on it. People want to talk about this. I think we need to give them the opportunity to have input.
I don't think anyone's disagreeing with you, Councilor Richter. It's just a process to get there. So right now, if the public hearing wouldn't be a vehicle that's available to the municipality unless it wants to contravene the Local Government Act.
I'm not sure how exactly this would be contravening the Local Government Act.
Mr. Cooner, maybe we could do that a third time then.
The current legislation limits council's ability to hold public hearings for plan compliant items that are for residential development.
And is this application plan compliant?
Yes, it is plan compliant.
It's compliant with what?
The official community plan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to confirm with staff through you what item E, water servicing in the proponent's letter means when they indicate that a future development will connect to the Township of Langley's water network. Is that the responsibility of the proponent to pay for and to construct the connection for this site and all the lots that will be a part of it to the municipal water system?
Your worship, to Councilor Pratt, correct.
Thank you.
Councilor Martins?
Thank you. If I can, through the chair to staff, there was mention of multiple open houses or information sessions for residents to attend. Can you refresh my memory on approximately when those happened? I recall there being events for the adjacent development proposal. When was this one held?
I think they go back quite a ways, but we could certainly get that outlined, what public consultation has occurred. I believe they've gone back multiple years, like long before this council even.
Okay.
And many, many meetings with community people that's been organized by the developer that the whole neighborhood was invited to. So I think it would be appropriate if you're looking for that, potentially to add that as an amendment to a referral motion.
Okay, and I would like to say, as I was reviewing the documents again for this one, in preparation for this meeting, I note that there is a significant donation of land back to the township. And I'm wondering if the township has any plans for that land, or is it going to be left in its rural character? Or if I could hear more about that.
Through your worship to Councilor Martins, as you indicated, the majority of the lands that are currently under application are proposed as dedicated lands to the township for mostly for environmental purposes and tree protection. So subject to council's deliberations on the item and the development prerequisites, we would work through finalizing those items. They're currently preliminarily identified in the site plan as included in the package, your worship.
Thank you. Yeah, and I note a lot of trees on this site and a lot of trees being retained with the current proposed plan, and I really do appreciate that balance. It's easy enough to just clear cut a place, and I appreciate that there's a effort to work around that, and also with the trail network. So this one, it looks really good. I'm quite impressed. Thanks.
All right. Ms. Bauer, if you could bring up that referral that I prepared, please. Yep, I'm going to move that the application be referred back to staff to work with the proponent to consider the site within the context of an overall potential trail network from 56th Avenue and 240th Street to Williams Park and amenities in the context of application 1109033 to the south. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Rent. This will, I think, provide council with some additional information on the overall context of the area, as it may or may not connect to Williams Park, which has come up a number of times in the consultation. If anybody wishes for the additional information to be collected as part of this referral, now would be the time to move an amendment as well. Councilor Martins?
Thank you for saying that. Is it okay that I'm amending an amendment?
Go ahead.
Okay, or is it referral, I guess, we're okay. Yeah, just, it would be nice if staff could provide some historical data on what sort of public information.
So an amendment could read, you refer back to staff, the subsequent text, with that report, with the subsequent report to include an outline of all previous consultation.
Yeah, as long as that's not super labor intensive. I don't want to bog this down.
It's probably important for the council to see what consultation has been conducted.
Yeah.
So if you wish to move that amendment,
Yeah.
or you wish to adjust that wording, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I will move that
All
amendment.
right, I'll second it. Is there any discussion we're on the amendment, so if anybody could update they wish to speak to the amendment. Councilor Richter on the amendment.
And the amendment is to get an accounting of public input.
Ms. Bauer, if you could read back the amendment.
The amendment would be that included in the information staff would report back to council with all previous consultation.
Okay, I'd like a clarification. Does all previous consultation include whether or not a public hearing was ever held relative to this property?
Yeah, staff can include that.
Okay, I'll support the referral then, or the
This is
amendment.
an amendment to the referral. So I'll call the question on the amendment to the referral. That carries unanimously. Now back to the referral as amended. Is there any other discussion? Councillor Kunst.
So when I read that the application be referred back to staff to work with the proponent to consider the site within the context of an overall potential, what is the actual time frame on that? Because this has come back a couple of times now. And I think I'm just kind of wondering, I believe that the proponent has actually made some comments about the Williams Park. So is this going to be a long-term sort of, deferral for Or can this come back in a couple of weeks or a month?
Mr. Cooner?
To your worship, to Councillor Coons, it'd be hard to pinpoint a timeline as it's being referred back to staff to work with the proponent to consider these trail networks, Williams Park, other amenities, and then also provide council with the previous consultation. So it'd be a mix of staff resource plus getting information from the proponent and working with the proponent as well. So
Okay, this was, like, we had this in December, and then I think it was December or January, and then we referred it back to April. Had there been any indication that this was something that we would have wanted to maybe work with the proponent on before coming back here?
through your worship, to Councillor Coons, it was a deferral, so the item was, we were waiting for council's direction on it. So at that time, from when it was deferred to now, we would be waiting for either council granting third or this referral now to then work with the proponent.
Okay, thanks.
All right, seeing no other discussion, call the question on that referral as amended. That carries unanimously. Move to item G2, 2026 Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor. All right, go ahead, Councillor Richter.
I have to declare a conflict because part of this deals with cemeteries.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to move the recommendation, but I'll wait for Councillor Richter to depart the chamber. All right, does anybody wish to second it? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question through to staff. I'm just wondering, on these fees and charges, what is the date in which they become effective? And are all of the fees and charge amendments do they all have the same effective date?
Your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, depending on the schedule, each schedule might have a different effective or implementation date. For example, the Parks Schedule 1 implementation date would be September 1st, 2025, 2026. Whereas the general fee increase for cemeteries is, I believe, the implementation is July 1st of 2026.
So most of them are September 2026, but cemeteries July 1st?
That's correct. Generally, it's September 1st, 2026, but there's I believe one specifically that I mentioned, the cemetery was July, and there may be one different dates for some other schedules, but generally speaking, September is the date that is used.
Okay, just, why is there a particular reason why the cemetery fee is July 1st as opposed to September? July's not far away, so is there a reason why it has a different date, or why not just have them all the same?
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, with respect to the cemetery date being of July 1st, it's essentially to provide those requiring these activities with a set timeline when making essential purchase decisions. So the cemetery fees and charges bylaw does have a significant impact to individuals' estates. So just having this firm date as soon as practical allows a lot of these individuals and families to make financial decisions.
Okay, thank you for that. Just the other one was that I noticed that it talks about a 2.1% general increase to the cost, but fees and charges vary for the person. Some people would have different fees and different charges depending on what they're doing in the community, what they're involved in. And so for some people, it might be 2.1%, but it is true that for other people, it could be much greater. There are some new fees that are introduced that didn't exist before. So the 2.1% is interesting, but not necessarily accurate. I'm wondering if that's a good way to state it. I mean, it depends on who you are as to whether it's 2.1%.
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, the general fee increase is 2.1%, which is essentially industry consumer price index rate. That's the fee. There is no other increase unless it's noted or if there's new fees being introduced. And I believe the only new fees being introduced are with respect to racket sports or racket courts.
Right, okay. And is this, when we do fees and charges, do we typically have a process for public engagement on it, or do we just go ahead and do our fee increases without that form of some kind of public engagement, whether that's online or other type of public engagement?
Dear worship, to Councillor Whitmer, so the fees and charges amendment bylaws these are reviewed on an annual basis, and every year we do amendments to the fees and charges. They're just essentially proposed to just better align with township revenue and service budgets. And user groups or the public do have an opportunity once this report is available to the public to provide any submissions or any raise any items of concern.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Martins?
Thank you. A question through the chair to staff. I note the new sewer connection charges or connection deposits, 5,000 for residential and 7,500 for non-residential. And just thinking in the context of our housing affordability discussions for the target report earlier, can staff speak to whether these new fees have been assessed for the impact they might have on our housing costs and targets?
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, are you referring to Schedule 12? Is that the sewer? I just wanted to make sure that I have the right schedule and section.
Yeah, it's the two new connection deposits. Hold on one second, I'll just double check. It was highlighted in the report. Yeah, it would be in Schedule 12. In the report, it's on page 8, the first paragraph, connection, disconnection fees.
Yes, I have, now I'm able to, yes, locate it. So yes, through your worship to Councillor Martins, this is specifically service connection, disconnection fees are for residential subdivisions with no service agreements, or the other fee there associated is non-residential subdivision with no service agreements.
Okay, and this is a new fee?
This is a connection and disconnection fee. So these are to be added to ensure that it's with this sewer and fee charges. It's essentially related to the nature of the waterworks and sewer utilities. So staff essentially reviewed the connection and disconnection service process, and they identified that having a security deposit provided a simpler process than a letter of credit from customers. So it's just to make the process more efficient.
Okay, so more efficient, so we're not slowing down our housing targets, and by the sounds of things, we're doing the opposite, potentially. Yeah,
That is correct.
yeah, thank you.
All right, so I have an amendment that I'd like to move. It's a pretty simple one, that all increases within Schedule 17, Recreation, Arts, and Culture for 2026 be reverted to the same fees and charges amounts as in 2025. Moved myself, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion or questions? That was outlined and mentioned in the report. This will carry that on for one additional year. Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, sorry, there was a couple of new fees that were introduced. Are you, does this motion also then suggest they would not be introduced until?
No, my interpretation of this is that for those that existed in 2024 2025, those same fees would be carried forward in 2026. Anything that's been added would be added.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on that amendment. That carries with Councillor Richter absent. All right, is there any other discussion on, what are we on here, G2 as amended? Seeing none, call the question. That carries, Councillor Richter absent. If you could get Councillor Richter back for me, please. Thank you. All right, item H1, SMU Development Permit Area Bylaws 6116 was deferred. It's now back on the floor. Is there any other discussion or questions about H1? Councillor Richter?
Yeah, I had a couple of follow-up questions here. And in particular, at the time, I did raise a concern, which was more from a governance, I think, perspective than anything else, about the delegation of development permit authority to staff. And this was relative to bylaw, the companion bylaw 6116. Now, staff confirmed at the time that there is a mechanism for 3 councillors to request that a specific SMU development permit come before council within 14 days of notification. Can staff confirm that that same mechanism is in place for this particular bylaw, and that council will be notified of every SMU development permit application as it is received?
Through your worship to Councillor Richter, the delegation for these development permits, the bylaw itself does state that if 3 members of council write within 14 days requesting it to appear before council, then staff would bring the development permit before council for issuance.
Okay, so we could send one email from 3 councillors, or does each councillor have to send a separate email?
To your worship to Councillor Richter, the member of council themselves would have to request it, 3 members of council.
Okay. My second question is, and I note from the public hearing minutes that were previously approved, that the only comment that came out in the public hearing was from a Mr. Hanson, who basically commented that multiplexes are a very affordable housing option, and I agree they are. But were there any other written submissions received? And if there were any changes to this made as a result of those submissions?
To your worship to Councillor Richter, to our knowledge, we only received 1 written submission, and that's the submission you referred to earlier. We received no other written submission with respect to this item.
Okay, so this is, as it went to public hearing, no changes? Correct.
No submissions, no additional submissions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other discussion, is there any other discussion on each one? Seeing none, call the question on each one. That carries unanimously. Item H2, rezoning application number 100733, bylaw number 5899. Does anybody wish to move? Moved by Councillor Pratt.
Lipton leaf. the room
All right, thank you.
on this one. Thank you.
All right, that was moved by Councillor Pratt. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on H2, third reading? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move that the application be deferred to June 29th, 2026. Is there a seconder to deferral? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on deferral? Seeing none, call the question on deferral. Ms. Bauer, you can vote for Councillor Richter. How do we deal with that? No, you just, someone's got to, it's holding up the system. You have to, she's got to vote.
Yes, could you just put?
Just vote for, yeah, just, there you go. Yeah, thank you. So she's absent, and so that carries with Councillor Richter absent. Ms. Bauer, if you could bring up that second motion now, please. All right, I'm going to move that council direct staff to work with the proponent to provide the proposed flood management plan, noise mitigation plan, dust management plan, odor management plan identified in development prerequisite 3, and associated restrictive covenants identified in development prerequisite 4 for council's consideration, and provide the proposed restrictive covenant for compliance with the quiet zone per the community standards bylaw identified in development prerequisite 5 for council's consideration. Ms. Bauer, I have a slight amendment. I'm going to move it as amended to say explore and provide options for potential containment of the proposed non-farm processing use, explore potential relocation of the facility in partnership and or cooperation with the Township of Langley, and provide a confirmation by a qualified environmental professional of the potentially required setbacks from West Creek that may be or would be applicable for a non-farm processing and distribution use if this were being contemplated within urban areas. Did you catch the amendment, Ms. Bauer? Potential containment in 3. So if you could please add that for me, right before the word containment. And I'll move that as amended, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on this associated motion? Yep. Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yes, just wanted to get clarification on what is meant by number 3, potential containment of the proposed non-farm processing use.
Yeah, Mr. Cooner, how would that be interpreted? So presumably located within a building of some kind.
Thank you, Worship. Through to Council Whitmarsh. Containment, firstly, would come to mind would be containment within a building itself. Containment could be other forms of containment as well through other structural elements, walls, fences, landscaping. But the first item that comes to mind would be a building of worship.
Okay, I mean, that's fairly ambiguous, ranging from a building to possible fences. So putting everything in a building versus having a fence versus not allowing it to grow larger than it is. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to define this. So I'm wondering if there's a way to clarify what's meant by that.
You could try to narrow it down if you wish to make an amendment. I think the intent here would be to leave some leeway for their team to provide options without being necessarily restricted in the way you're talking. I think it'd be ideal for them to have lots of options and not be constricted in some way. But if you wish to try to specify it further, please feel free to make an amendment.
Yeah, no, I guess I understand the options. I'm wondering if, so the way that it's written, it allows the proponent to define containment.
Mr. Cooner, who would be allowed to define containment?
Staff's interpretation and reading of the motion is we're working with the proponent on these items, so it would be in collaboration and in partnership with the proponent.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kunst?
So, have they not provided some of these already? Like if I'm looking at number 1, I think the proponent spoke to a lot of these. So I'm just wondering what number 1? Have they not already provided those details?
Mr. Gunner?
To your worship, to Councillor Kunst, my understanding is these items are development prerequisites. Some of these items there have been general discussions, I believe, outlining what the plan may be, but not specific flood management plans, noise mitigation plan, dust management plan, odor management plan. And I'll just defer to Mr. Richardson to just confirm that.
So
That's correct, Your Worship, and then those would be prepared by the relevant qualified professionals, Your Worship.
okay, so if we're voting on this, this is so that we require this in order for them to continue on in their current, like business, what they're doing right now, or is this to do something different? So just so I'm clear, really what I'm voting on.
Yeah, Mr. Gunner?
To your worship, to Councillor Kunst, staff's understanding is that we work with the proponent. The proponent would be providing these proposed plans, so the floodplain management plan, noise mitigation plan, dust management plan, and odor management plan by their qualified professionals. As these were already development prerequisites outlined, and then the other items provide restrictive covenants, explore options. This was all be done with the proponent, and then we would advise council. I think the intent is, unless his worship's intent is different, would be essentially that we would try to provide as much of these items prior to June 29th, if that's feasible. And then the council would then have that information prior for consideration of third reading.
So number 5, it says provide confirmation of a QEP. Did they already not provide that already?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Kunz, some information has been provided to staff as well as the delegate at the public hearing from memory. This provides the associated motion as indicated on the screen. Staff understand that to provide for the provision of additional information should the use be within an urban area, Your Worship.
Okay, so going back to my other question, this would be so that they could continue in their current location, but I noticed number 4, it says explore potential relocation. And I believe you said June 29? Mr. Cooner, you said something about June 29. This is when you would think it might come back?
Might. So it's been deferred and approved by council. That third reading will be reconsidered or considered again on June 29th.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Martins?
Thank you. I think I have some of the same questions here. I feel like point 1, at least in the submissions that I heard at the public hearing from the proponent, they had covered off those items. So what more are we needing, I guess, specifically to point 1 that they haven't already provided?
Yeah, Mr. Cooner?
To your worship, to Councillor Martin, these are development prerequisites that are outlined. I think there were general submissions made at the public hearing with respect to what the floodplain management plan, noise mitigation plan, and dust management plan would look like. But I believe what is being requested is formalized reports by the qualified professionals that of the specific item.
Okay. And you said they are development requirements. Is that what I heard?
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, in the report itself, these are development prerequisites requirement prior to council's consideration of final adoption of the bylaw.
Okay. All right. And then, I'm just thinking about number 4, explore potential relocation of the facility. Again, I did hear the proponent speak about that and the steps they've already taken to try and do that. And it's not as easy as one would think. And I believe we heard point number 5, we already heard from a QEP. So I have some concerns about this associated motion. Is this typical to put this degree of specificity on an application? I don't know if I've seen it this way before. I feel the proponents have really worked hard to, address the concerns raised by the neighbors and to comply with what's typically required. So I'm not entirely sure why we are, A, deferring and B, putting these requirements on the proponent in an associated motion if it's already part of the application. So anyways, those are my thoughts. I'll leave it there.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on the motion. That carries unanimously. Item I1, bylaws for final adoption, official community plan amendment rezoning
I'm
application
sorry,
number one.
Mr. Mayor, we do have to get Councillor Richter first.
Right. Please get Councilor Richter back. Thank you for that. If you could please bring that down, Ms. Bauer. All right, we'll move to bylaws for final adoption, item I1, official community plan amendment rezoning application number 100270, bylaw number 5924-5925. I'll move it, seconded by Councilor Pratt. Is there any discussion on I1? Councilor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through yourself to staff, I just want to confirm that as the development permit application is not a part of this final adoption, that it's a delegated DP. Is that correct?
Your worship to Councilor Pratt, that is correct. I believe the UP is under 25.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other discussion on I1? Seeing none, call the question on I1. That carries unanimously. Mayor and council report. Does anybody wish to make a mayor and council report? Councilor Martins.
Thank you. Yeah, just a few items to bring up here. First of all, I want to congratulate staff on another excellent event put on to celebrate our volunteers and appreciate the volunteers in the Township of Langley. I want to congratulate all of the nominees and winners of the awards and extend my gratitude to all volunteers in Langley. You are the backbone of the community. So you show up and you step in and you're appreciated. I had mentioned it earlier in this meeting, I'll bring it up again. There's an event coming up in the summer called the Rolling Barrage, and it's a motorcycle ride from coast to coast in Canada. And this will be the 10th year. And BC's been a little underwhelming in the last 9 years, and there's a group of volunteers within our community that are working really hard to change that, to do some fundraising for this event. And one of the nominees of our Eric Flowerdew Award, Veronica Cave of Veronica's Pierogies, has been working overtime to raise money, and through a series of deep fried pierogi events on Saturdays at her store, successfully raised $7,100 towards helping the riders with the associated costs of the ride, specifically gas, as we know it's not getting any cheaper. So I just applaud the efforts, in showcasing, or not showcasing is a bad word, but highlighting PTSD. And this ride it will be in Langley on August 22nd. So thanks to Veronica and crew for doing that, and there will be more events coming up to raise money for them. And then the last one I would comment on, more on a sober note, on Friday, mostly people from Fort Langley celebrated the life of Tony, who was tragically killed a few weeks prior by a train. It was a beautiful ceremony, and the Fort Langley Lions did cater that celebration. And then later, they had a fundraiser at the Fort Langley Lions Hall for the May Day Parade coming up, understanding the escalating costs putting on events like that when it comes to security and police measures. So I was humbled to be a part of both of those events, and just seeing how the Lions come together. Tony was one of the Lions, and he would be happy to know that they carried on and had a very successful fundraiser that night. That's all I've got.
Councillor Billy?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a busy time. The Polar Plunge benefits Special Olympics. This is the third year now that I've participated in. I didn't get quite as wet this year. They, instead of spraying down on us, they sprayed up, and it was a nice day rather than the last two have been brutally cold, and it's a lot better than when I used to do it in Surrey, down at Blackie Spit. Trying to run in and out of there is a little chilling. The Gateway of Hope has about 3 or 4 times a year, they have an event where it's a community day. They have foot clinics. They have different organizations come there to profile what they do in the community. And Constable Peter Mann, myself, and Fraser Holland, we usually get stuck behind the grill doing hot dogs, and believe me, we go through more than a few hot dogs. I attended a candlelight vigil up at the Alder Grove Legion, and they do this 3 times a year, and on top of Remembrance Day. One is for each service. This one was for the Army. It was the day before the celebration of Vimy, and it was a very beautiful, nice small ceremony, very respectful of what our armed forces and this one the Army does. The volunteer event was kind of special for me. One of the recipients was the daughter of a firefighter I used to work with in Surrey, so it's always nice to see that some of the children of people that I worked with are continuing the efforts of their parents. And coming up this year is the 25th, I don't know if you'd call it celebration, but recognition of 9/11. And this will be the 25th year for the ride, recognizing that. So I'm just bringing it up early, as for some of us who attended funerals in New York, it's very special. And especially when so many of my brothers in New York passed away doing their job. It's just everyone keep in mind this year is a 25th anniversary of a horrible day for many of us.
Councillor Whitmarsh?
Yeah, I would certainly want to appreciate and thank again the staff that worked so hard on putting together the volunteer appreciation dinner this last week, but also in particular the great volunteers that we have in our community, many nominated of course for awards, but beyond that the room was full of amazing volunteers who did do such great work for our community, and really appreciate that. I was fortunate as well this last weekend to attend along with Councillors Kuntz, Pratt, Rint, and Mayor Woodward, the fastball grand opening at Noel Booth Park. That was exciting to see all the teams and athletes there for the day, but also to see the venue itself and the great improvements that have been made on the ballparks there, and also around now the pond and some of those other areas. So that was tremendous. And I had good fortune of doing as well this last week a ride along with Constable Peter Mann, and spent the day with him, and very insightful day. And the complexities and challenges of police work are quite evident as we did that through our community, and certainly very thankful and appreciative of all the members of the RCMP and our auxiliary staff that do such great work to keep our community safe. So thank you for them. And that's good for me.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'll echo my colleagues' comments regarding the volunteer appreciation dinner, but also give a shout out to the staff who are organizing and who hosted the first of the 2 Willoughby Community Plan Open House is. Had the chance to attend that before the volunteer appreciation dinner, and just a reminder to everybody to please try and get out or fill out the feedback form online to the second and last open house this coming Tuesday at the LEC from 4 to 8 p.m. And I also did want to give a special shout out to the BC Family Physician of the Year, Dr. Anita Kai Fei Wong, who is a Langley-based physician and works as the medical director at Foundry. So congratulations.
Councillor Kunst?
Yeah, I'd like to report that I made it to the BC Farm Museum Cleanup Day on the right day this time. I was a week early last time. Also went to the Volunteer Appreciation Awards, and it's just great to see how many amazing volunteers that we have in our community, and I appreciate staff in their attempt to, even, they had 100 more people this time, so that's why dinner was a little bit late. I did attend the Vibby Ridge candlelight ceremony where we honored the 120 soldiers dedicated on the Aldergrove Legion cenotaph. And it was really awesome to attend the Langley fastball opening ceremonies, as my granddaughter was one of the kids that gets to play on those beautiful facilities. So that's it for me.
All right, I'm going to echo everybody's comments. The volunteer appreciation dinner actually had record turnout this year as well. So it was great to see such a large engaged crowd and have the ability to appreciate and thank everyone for their efforts. And I've also attended multiple ceremonies this past couple of weekends to open up the Diamond Sports softball season. And it's incredible to see the increasing registration that we're dealing with, but just the energy of those events, and everybody just wants to get out and play youth sports. It's fantastic. And it continues to echo, the need to continue to make upgrades throughout the community. Councillor Ferguson, do you have something to add? Go
I
ahead.
also don't want to miss on the fact, that we had a great volunteer appreciation dinner with many extra people there. Thank the staff. But the interesting thing is we have people from all different walks of life doing all sorts of volunteer work, and anywhere from the people on wheels, the BMX, to other people that are out helping people in the community doing things. I also did want to point out under Metro report that something very important is happening in our government. We are going to be going over the Indigenous rights of the nations coming up this week in our Metro Vancouver meeting of Indigenous rights and things like that. So there's an awful lot of things happening in the community regarding that, and we'll be going over the legislation and things like that. So I'm keeping an open idea of what's going on with that, hoping as a committee we can provide more information back, not just to our local nations, but to also the province as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to make a regional report? Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, the water report was very interesting, as they went through the processes that are put in place for proximity works, the care and the attention that is paid to make sure and that when you're getting near any of the water infrastructure, what they have to do, and it's very extensive and great to see. Also in the air, some really interesting things. They now have a traveling road show kind of thing that I've requested if we could get a permanent one here. It's called Lumi Air, and what it does is it gives you real-time reports on the air quality. It will be touring around. I put in a request that it comes to our civic facility, but also have put in a request to the committee that if they can make some smaller units, that we could have one that would be in place only in the township, and we would be able to move it around the township and get real-time air quality readings and see what's going on. And there's an interesting thing. Over the last 5 years, there are 580 fewer deaths attributed to air pollution by Metro in their readings. Right now we have one of our two burning times permitted in the township, and it's very interesting to see how they're moving ahead with air quality measurements, and that there's 31 different stations that they do across through Metro, and they're showing great results on much better air quality when it comes towards people with respiratory problems.
Councilor Ferguson?
Well, Councillor Bailey brought to my attention, I have under M8, the Metro Vancouver Laboratory credited 200,000 tests of liquid waste management for support drinking water, wastewater, and residual monitoring, treatment plant compliance, and process control. I want to bring that to everybody's attention. It's on M8. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to items for information, M1 through 8. Does anybody have any questions or discussion? Councilor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. In regard to item M3, the 213 Street Road and Sidewalk Improvements Update, I have a motion.
All right, go ahead.
The motion would be to refer the item for information to the 2027-2031 budget process, capital budget
I'll
process.
second that. Is there any questions or discussion on that referral? Seeing none, call the question on, Councilor Martins, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just, looking for some clarification if I can through the chair to the mover. There was multiple options in this report.
My interpretation would be that we would like to have all options included within the budget. So we prepare multiple capital sheets that, of course, you couldn't fund them all. You'd have to pick one.
Oh, I see. So that we'll pick at the time?
Yes, pick at the budget.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that's the intent, and that's how I would interpret the motion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, Councilor Whitmarsh?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions with regards to number 4, M4.
We're just going to deal with the motion on M3
sorry.
first,
Sorry.
if you're speaking to that.
Yeah, sorry, no, I'm not.
Okay, so call the question on that referral. That carries unanimously. Councilor Whitmarsh, go ahead.
Thank you, sorry. I wanted to speak to M4, Fort Langley Waterfront Update, just asking some questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
The estimate that has come back of $11 million, is that just for the pedestrian crossing, or does that also include the Haldy House?
No, the Holly House is fully funded and almost completed. So that 11, my understanding, Mr. Cooner, that 11 includes the pedestrian overpass and the lengthy accessibility ramp. But great to have you confirm that.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and so in the report, it talks about that without federal funding, we'd not be able to move ahead on this project. Have we applied for federal funding, or do we plan to apply for federal funding? What is sort of the status of that? I also understood we had some money, and maybe that 1.4 million from the Trans Mountain Community Benefit, was that being directed towards that, or is that related to the Haldy House? I know we had earmarked some money at some point for this.
Your Worship, to Council Whitmarsh, we are reviewing all grant options. We just haven't been able to identify a grant we are eligible for, so we will continue to do that. And as highlighted in the memo there, with that budget envelope, 11 million, we would require some external grant funding, federal approval to ensure that there's funding available for this project.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion? M1 through 8. I'll move on to N1. Does anybody wish to move the recommendation under N1? Moved by Councillor Pratt. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to move deferral of that to June 15th. Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on that deferral? Seeing none, call the question on that deferral. That carries. Councillor Whitmarsh opposed. Councillor Rent, go ahead. No, it does it automatically. Go ahead.
I would like to move 01 as written.
All right, is there seconded by Councillor Pratt? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the township has been lacking in guidance a little bit, so I would like to open up the staff to bring back some framework for a agri-tech strategy.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on 01? Councillor Kunst?
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. I know maybe it's because of my Dutch heritage or something, but I noticed that you had a lot of processing plants, but there's a lot of greenhouses, a lot of dairy farmers, a lot of other businesses that I know would probably love to weigh into this. So would this be similar to what the Abbotsford, they have the BCCI, I believe? And also Surrey, I think, is also has their agri-tech strategy. So I'm wondering if it would be something similar. Would we complement what they're doing, or would we be different?
Good questions, Mr. Cooner.
To your worship, to Councillor Kunst, staff would review the item in a holistic lens and see if what neighboring municipalities are doing with their agri-tech strategies would develop a framework and based on this direction, draft the terms of reference and have that endorsed by council. So if there's any specific items that council would like us to look at or consultation that we would like to do, once we develop the framework and bring that terms of reference, that would be the appropriate time to provide that direction, but we would take that into consideration.
Okay, I just had another, so we just deferred the agriculture bylaw review task force. That would have maybe complemented this in some way possibly, but would this go back to the, or has the mover talked to the AAC, the Agriculture Advisory Committee, on maybe getting input from them?
I don't think so. I think what this is a pretty minor first step, the way I read this, which I appreciate, sort of see in terms of reference, which could then potentially involve the committee or be referred to the committee. So would be something to get input on that would be really specific. That'd hopefully be what one process council would consider.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's a good initiative, and I hope that maybe the AAC would be involved in that, but yeah, I'm supportive.
Councilor Martins?
Thank you. I'm supportive of this motion as well, with a broader lens. I'm just wondering, it says, be it resolved that council direct staff to develop a framework in terms of reference to initiate the strategy. Should it not say to report back to council?
Well, the terms of reference would come back in a report to council, but if you wish to amend it to say that, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I would like that included. And then at that point, you're saying that we could then refer it over to the
That'd be an option.
the
but
advisory committee?
The terms of reference, of course, have to be approved by council, so it would come in a report, but if you wish to add that, go ahead.
Yes, could I add that?
Go ahead, yeah, make your amendment motion. No one else is in the queue.
Sure. So the motion says, therefore, be it resolved that council direct staff to develop a framework in terms of reference to initiate a Township of Langley agri-tech strategy, I don't know, and report back to council?
All right, is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Whitmarsh, yeah, go ahead.
That's all. I just think it's important to highlight that step.
Okay. And call the question on that amendment. That's defeated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Whitmer, Woodward opposed. I think back to the 01 as unamended. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call the question on 01. That carries unanimously. Is there any other business? Oh, Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a couple of small motions here. The first one is the council directs staff to restore on-street parking on the south side of 72nd Avenue from 208A to the proximity of the Arbor Ribbon Trail.
Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, we have received a significant amount of correspondence from some residents who have been there who are disabled, some not fully in chairs, and that's some in chairs. And what's happened is they've had parking along that ribbon for up to 14 years, so they're able to come in on the main floor of the residence, where if they have to come in from the back lane, they on average have about 9 stairs to come up. So just by changing the paint and putting the parking back into place on 72nd Avenue, it will accommodate an awful lot of people who need that for their accessibility that they've been using for up to 14 years.
All right, any other discussion on that motion? Seeing none, call the question on this. That carries unanimously. Any other business?
Yes,
Oh, Councillor Bailey, if you have another one, go ahead.
yes, the second one. The council fund the speed reader boards on at 24th and 208th capital project with $24,000 from council contingency.
Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Glenwood Elementary. We had a delegation last year that pointed out that this is a very dangerous area because people are not slowing down in there. This delegation was a little different, as it was a grade 1 student who has recognized the fact that this is dangerous. At the time, I also spoke to a couple of the teachers and the principal, and they fully supported this delegation. And I frequently stop there because my grandchildren go there, and I sit and watch and see gravel trucks, which are the biggest, scariest ones that are not respecting the speed limit there, and also an awful lot of people. And I went and spoke to, this morning, I spoke to both the delegate and the principal. And the principal desperately wants the speed reader boards. They were referred to as smiley faces. And they think they will be, they hope they will be effective in slowing down. And if not, I may come forward in the future for speed bumps on those roads.
All right. Any other discussion on that capital project funding? Seeing none, call the question on that motion. That carries unanimously. Is there any other business? No, does anybody have an item for closed? Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
I have two items, one A, one consideration, and one C, one legal.
Did you get that, Laura?
I believe Councillor Ferguson means personnel and legal.
You meant, Councillor Ferguson?
Yes.
Great. And I also have a legal item. All right, so you get a motion to resolve into closed as amended. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rint. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Get a motion to terminate. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Pratt. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.